It is time for the stochastic fiction game. I will create a stochastic fiction outline. And I will try to execute that outline. I'm creating this outline by executing this script. Slow day. And then I will open this script up like this. And we have our stochastic fiction outline for today's game. For today's stochastic fiction outline game, we have these story elements. We have setting time present, setting main location, town, conflict, person versus nature, quantity of primary characters, 1. Point of view first, tense, present tense, genre, Western, format, flash fiction. Those are the story elements for today's stochastic fiction game. I will be honest with you and say I can't remember the last time I had a setting main location town, and I'm a little bit excited. Western. Been a minute. All of these story elements will be fun. First person, well, I gotta think of somebody's internal voice to create a narrative. Person versus nature in a Western of a town, my God, let's have a conflict that maybe I'll try to write to and not think of something else along the way. A person versus society would be probably your most sort of Western setting and conflict. But person versus nature in a town, there's only one character. And it's the nature of things. Is it drought? Is it the desert encroaching upon this small little mining town that's now dwindling? Is it a town for other reasons? Maybe a bunch of ranchers got together and made a town. It's got to be a town. And the quantity of primary characters, everyone's backdrop, so they're not going to have friends. The conflict is not going to be with another person, because that would probably push up someone to a primary character. In a flash fiction story that's about 800 words long, I mean, you mention a character once and they become a primary character because they got mentioned at all. Not that many words. Setting time present. I've read that aloud, now I'm reading back, and I wish it was the past. It'd be a little bit easier. A Western in a town, present day. Versus nature, and it's a Western. Then it's gonna be like a cattle town or something. I think the setting time present is the most challenging thing right here. If it was in the past, and if it was in the future too, I could probably throw that down and have something very interesting. And in the past, I would just, whatever knowledge I have, it's not vast, but it's enough to be able to write a Western set in the West in the past. I've been to a few ghost towns before, so I could just imagine that as actually having people. And I've seen plenty of the movies, but that's the past. I've also written stories about future Westerns. I guess they would be more on the sci-fi sort of range. Some of them. Although with the technology that's starting to exist now, the future could seem like sci-fi, given we don't kill ourselves, which, we're going to find that out real quick. The data will tell us, and that's the scary part. How much time did I give myself? I should start my timer. Although I've got the timestamp right here that can be followed as well. I'm just going to give myself an hour and a half today. I don't want to dither too much on thought and just write. Town, though, and Western. What's the conflict? Nature. A flood. Maybe that's it. Drought. I mean, it could be over water rights. That's like an age-old conflict. That's a little bit more like person versus society, though. It's not necessarily nature that's going to give people water rights and create the means to equally distribute those water rights or equally distribute the purchased water rights. And that's, bureaucracy that doesn't exist in nature. So if this person is trying to get water that was stolen from him, it's not a conflict versus nature. Even though if there's a drought, that's just a trigger to have the conflict versus society. At least in my scope that I'm trying to keep narrow of what that conflict means. Because we have nature. Because we have nature. Quantity of primary characters, 1. Oh, man. Maybe it's just like the encroaching desert. But it's gotta be 800 words. Like having some story about how the desert is taking over your town because drought's spreading. And this is real even today. A lot of people, I've read of places like in Arizona to where because of dehydration and just because of the way the nature of deserts, because deserts do that, and landscapes change, that a lot of these places are now getting surrounded by sand and sandstorms. And maybe that's it. Maybe it's during a sandstorm. And while it's in a town, and it's got to be a Western, man, then I guess, Western. I feel like there has to be a conflict with the government. Someone looking for solitude and freedom, isolation, getting away from it. When I think of Westerns, far as in a town, we'll put this in Arizona. I do love Arizona. I like the desert, so, and most, I'm trying to think of all the places I've been. It's definitely different types of desert. And I know more about northern Arizona than I do about southern Arizona or even the middle. Driven through, been places, but not as much as I have in northern Arizona. So that geography is a little bit more familiar to me than any other. And it's not like I'm going to be thinking of like the desert sands and sand dunes. Just like scrub brush. Wash beds. Carved from sand and then hardened. Maybe I'll start out with those words right there. Wash beds. Dried. Wash beds, carved sand between scrub brush. I mean, it's not a canyon. And cut What's the word I'm looking for? Wash beds carve the sands between scrub brush and cuts. And cuts. Is it present tense? And I gotta think this person's voice is first person, present tense, Western, flash fiction, one character, person versus nature, town. Is this person in a horse or in a truck? And maybe, I mean, it's not, it wouldn't be unheard of. I mean, I've seen it happen in real desert, flash floods. Was on a very large ranch, not necessarily. I wasn't in the town that was nearby. I visited it afterwards. Of course, it wasn't as affected, but there was sand all over the road, and there was definitely need to clear it. But if it came in fast, you don't have I mean, those roads aren't made to disperse water, so it's a little bit easy to have those roads. Yeah. Let's just go with a better voice. Maybe first person. This person's got way too poetic of a voice. Wash beds carve the sands between the scrub brush and cut. No. This person's going to be in a truck. There isn't a lot of people who know how to ride a horse anymore. And those that probably do, that don't get paid money to be enter contests, are likely too busy to too busy to get off them. Wash beds carve the sands between the scrub brush. Clouds gathered fast. Sky darkened. I mean, gathered over. Where would that be at? I can't remember the name of it. I always get Fredonia and Fresno mixed up for some reason. Fresno, California, Fredonia, Arizona. If I remember right, the closest, biggest town there is Kanab, Utah. Maybe that's what it's going to have to be. I'm going to have to pull from some serious nonfiction existence to be able to at least make all the fiction that I write here seem believable. But now I'm thinking, like, I had thought in my head, there's this of like a farmer stopping a flood. But if I put it in a realistic place, I'm trying to think. I mean, you'd have a lot of water, but there's no like dam breakage in that area. You could have this hero. I mean, if I went to modern day, a lot of the ranching down there too is, they still do some ranching, but I think a lot of the people that own the land, at least when I read a few years ago, they were decreasing the amount of cattle that they had on it to allow the land to grow back. And I have to say, having seen pictures of that, it's very impressive. It looks like a different place because there's like grass and growing and lots of things all around. And if we're in a town, then that's even less of a scare because maybe you have to go round up some, I don't know, maybe cattle got stuck in the wash bed and you had to go get the backhoe to back home out. Like, that'd be a thing if I was on a ranch. or just out in the desert scope or something, but I'm in a town. And I've already decided that it's going to be a desert, and it's got to be versus nature. Man, what time do I got? I got to start writing something. And then I got a voice. My primary exposure to people, well, it's versus what? Well, versus society. Then you give you create the atypical cowboy that's gonna trigger the real cowboys, and they gotta earn their way, or some testosterone or human nature competitive competition. The sky darkened almost before the dark clouds gather. So it's not going to be if it's not about rain. They get on their horse and they wrestle up the, it's about nature though. You're not trying to start a conflict with another person. You're not trying to stand a conflict with another person. You're trying to fight against nature. And it's got to be in a town. I just thought of an idea that if this is in a ranch and you had person versus nature, maybe you could have it to where you're trying to keep the bull away from the cows. I guess heifers too. Isn't heifer once the female bovine is able to have calves? Cows are still female and males are bulls. But we're not going to have that in here. It's in a town. Maybe I could have that. I could still have that. Let's think of Kanab. And at least the Kanab I knew, which was a long time ago. But, it's probably grown. It's probably got a couple supermarts now, but I've never been there in a while. I did like the place. The geography, land is beautiful. I was too young to be judgmental against people. They all seemed like good people, and some were not good people, much like everywhere else in the world. The nature is going to be the bull. And this cowboy is chasing it down because the bull keeps getting out because it wants to go find the I guess I almost want to look that up, heifer, and at least get to the exact definition, because I got a lot of word definitions jumbling in my mind right now. Person versus nature. Quantity of primary characters, 1. It's the horse. The primary character is the cowboy. Maybe it's the bull. Is it anthropomorphic? Is that the word I'm looking for? Maybe. It could be the bull. Make it a little interesting. Could write a story about a bull trying to breaks out and runs to the Johnsons, who's got a couple cattle. Maybe they're pissed because they know if the bull breaks out and acts the stud, that you ain't gonna be able to pay the fee. Maybe I should write this in the perspective of a bull. It'd be different, and then maintain the scope of primary characters. 1, it's person versus nature. Say the cow is a person. It's in a town, Western style. Although, do you really call being a first-person bull a Western? That'd be more of some weird edge case fantasy or something. Fantasy. Or horror. Let's go with somebody on a horse. Because I have dice near, and I hate wasting my life deciding gender. Let's roll the dice. 1, 2 female, 3, 4 male, 5, 6, 6. Fantastic. Now I got to think of first person voice of this character. They're chasing their bull, and they want to get the bull before it gets, I think the proper term is the heifers. If I remember, that is a female cow that's able to bear children. Now, but I'll look that up later versus looking at the search and return engine now. Now this is the hard part. I gotta think of a voice. Or the fun part. Excuse me. I'll drop articles. What's the name of the horse? Dandy. We kicked up the road. I can get rid of this. Let me just state the whole conflict right at the first sentence. I should probably, maybe if I describe subtly that this is dry. Sky darken. Is it present tense, present tense? Okay. First person, one character, person versus nature. Conflict in a town. And this will be in a town. So sky dark. I don't want to say darkened because we're in the present tense. So we got to remove this. Let's make sure I start off right, because then I'll start writing the past tense, and then I'm going to have to try to change that before the time is up. I got Dandy saddled. Man, I'm in past tense land. It's so much easier to do past tense. I got to get... maybe some really crass name that this could be, like still. What would be a bull's name? Don't banger. Yeah, it's really crude. Sky dark clouds gather. I gotta get Dandy saddled to chase after Banger again. The broke fence can wait. I'll kick up the road. Dandy and me. Instead of I. Kick up the road. I mean, you probably want to put a comma here. Let's just make sure I've got everything right before I continue on, because I think I found some flow, at least some voice. So setting time, present, got it. That's could be modern day. And then setting main location, town. This will be in a town, a fictionalized version of a town called Kanab. Conflict, person versus nature. Quantity of primary characters, 1. So the person versus nature, the nature of the bull to want to mount heifers. That's just crude, but I'm trying to fit a story in. That's maybe justifiable as a reasonable conflict to be able to fit that parameter. Quantity of primary characters 1. Point of view first. Tense, present tense. Genre, Western. Format, flash fiction. I think I got those at least final 4. The primary characters, I suppose the role is a little bit, but they're not going to play an active role. Watch banger. It's got to be the Johnsons. There's a Johnson in every town. Excuse me for the yawns, but sometimes the body wants to do it, and I'm not going to resist. Sky dark clouds gather. I gotta get Dandy saddled to chase after Banger again. The broke fence can wait. Dandy and me kick up the road, watching Banger clomp up the road. Clomp up the road to the Johnson's place. Maybe got a whiff of... I don't know if they go in heat, but I'm gonna pretend they do. What would be... sassy in this age. Love. Where were they? I gotta have like I guess a placement. I'm gonna have the rain be each one of these paragraphs will just and I guess if you're telling a story, sometimes you put it in the present tense to make it more exciting. So I'm imagining this person telling the story. Craters in this. The heart's in the sand. Rain starts making tiny craters in the sand. Sagebrush shakes a bit. Maybe taking Banger's mind, probably. We kick up the road. Along the dirt road. Grab my rope. Give Dandy a nudge. We about near right. Okay. I mean, that's one thing I remember always about. I don't know what type of coincidence it was, but anytime the air would get moist, especially with the dryness of the desert or arid places, like these things we at least called stink bugs would come crawling out. But I'm not going to put that in there. It seems to me more like it was a northern Utah thing that I observed more than a northern Arizona, southern Utah thing. I'm sure it happened, but my life there wasn't long enough to observe it many enough times. Rain floods like a cold morning shower. Excuse me. I can hear we can hear Johnson's I'm barely here. Maybe still use this sentence here. Water cars wash bread. Let's do that. I mean, when you're talking this story, I guess you'd use articles here and there. I suppose when you're more talking internally that those articles get dropped a lot. At least they do for my internal dialogue. We start racing from the road to the gravel. Easy on Dandy's runs. Gravel squishes. Easy on Dandy as she runs. Gravel squishes. We about near Bangor. Rain floods like a cold morning shower, streaming from my hat, hiding Bangor. I can barely hear the Johnson's cow, Helga moo, and Bangor snort. Water carves the sands between the scrub brush. I know let's do this. Let's move this sentence. That's the next paragraph. Oh, that's the title of the... That's not what I wanted to copy. Because that's the output that was put to the buffer. It's the story. There we go. That's what I wanted to copy. Water carves sands between the scrub brush and cuts small rivers. And Banger's butt. I mean, with jostle, you usually need more than one. You need multiple cows or people to do a jostling. I feel. This might be a short story today. I mean, it is flash fiction, so it might be a very flashy, fast fiction. I don't know if it's very good. I'm just trying to struggle with the town. Person versus nature. We got it all about nature. I guess that's at least satisfied pretty. It's at least satisfied. I don't need to add any further descriptors for it. Water carves sand between the scrub brush and cuts small rivers. Banger's butt and body waddles and splashes puddles. Splashes through the shallow ditch. Kicks up the slope. It's the fence. Most cows and heifers. Scatter. But not Helga. She stands there. I'd say the slip of the mud. Think of slips. On wet sand. Grab my rope. Swing above my head. I blame the rain. I missed. The rope looped. Not the head. Rain. I got it. Now I see Banger not caring about Dan. Glaring at me. Not caring about, what was the name of the other one? What's the name of the? Helga. It's Helga. Dandy knows. Rains once we hit the paved road. It's a stream. There's a stream. Dandy took off. And runs holding the rope and the open fence. To the open fence. Banger's head lowers. Now there's rain. That's right. I gotta have it. I have to have that be an effect. They're gonna have to slip. Like muscle memory. Muscle memory. My hand slips. clips on the wet fence. They fall. Yeah, I'm kind of lost. How is this going to end? Ow. I don't know what to do with this. How to end it. Banger's head bashes right above me, rattling everything. I roll out and kick, feeling Banger's rage and knowing those horns are behind. Gate open. I run through. I feel like the human has to end up in the cage. Banger follows. I dive left. Banger passes. Push by. I cut back around. Even through the rain. Heard Banger's hooves. I grabbed. See my rope. Grab it. Run. I grab it running. Grab and swing the gate. It shuts behind. Put more of a descriptor there. The pen's gate. The holding pen. Pen. It shuts behind. As quick as I can. I tie off. The middle pole. Banger's head hits the fence. Stands. Banger looks at me. I think that's it. I don't know if that's the let's just call it caged animals. I think that's the story for today. We got time left, right? 36 minutes. I think I'm going to be done. Let's read this aloud. Let's read the Stochastic Fiction Game story elements. And hopefully I wrote to them. The story elements for today's Stochastic Fiction Game are setting time present, setting main location town, conflict person versus nature, quantity of primary characters 1, point of view first, tense, present tense, genre, western, format, flash fiction. We will rate this at the end. It's a loose rating, but nevertheless, if it's a game, you got to have some score or a winner based upon parameters. For today's Stochastic Fiction Game story, we have Caged Animals. Caged Animals. Sky dark, clouds gather. I gotta get Dandy's saddle to chase after Banger again. He broke the fence again. Dandy and me kick up the road, watching Banger clop up the road to the Johnson's place. Maybe got a whiff of sassy in this sage. Rain starts, making tiny craters in the sand. Sagebrush shakes a bit. Banger turns the corner along the dirt road. I grab my rope, give Dandy a nudge and snicker and say, "Let's go, girl." We start racing from the road to the gravel. Easy on Dandy as we run. Gravel squishes, and we are about near Banger. Rain floods like a cold morning shower, streaming from my hat, hiding Banger. I can barely hear the Johnson's cow Helga move and Banger snort. I know if Banger gets riled, I'll be paying for 2 fences. Water carves sand between the scrub brush and cuts small rivers. Banger's button body waddles and splashes through the sallow ditch, kicks up the side to the fence. Most of the cattle scatter, but not Helga. She stands there waiting for Banger and slips down the wet sand almost like he's stuck in for a second. I grab my rope and get it spinning above my head, holding on Dandy with only my legs. The rope looped Binger's horns, got the head. Rain, I mutter, to blame something other than me. With the help of Dandy, we pull back, and Binger slips down the slope enough to notice. Now I see Binger not caring about Helga or Sassy, glaring at me and Dandy. Dandy knows before I know, so she gets a kicking around and leading Binger back up the road. Once we hit the paved road, there's a stream. Binger lowers his head and rushes. The rope wet loose. I grip the saddle. Dandy two off. Galloped through broke fence and into the holding pen. The trick is getting Binger to follow you into the still pen, but getting out. The gates open, rain everywhere, and I'm holding on to the slack rope. Dandy slows just enough to let me whip my leg over and run, holding the rope to the open fence. Binger's head lowers into the holding pen, horns near my back. With muscle memory, I grab the top of the still fence poles and pull body over the fence. My hand slips on the wet fence. I fall. Binger's head bashes right above me, rattling everything. I roll out and kick, feeling Binger's rage and knowing the horns are behind. Pen gate open. I run through. Binger follows. I dive left. Binger rushes by. I cut back. Even through the rain, I heard Binger's hooves and see my rope right there. I grab it, running and grab and swing the still gate. It shuts behind. As quick as I can, tie off the rope around the metal fence pole. Binger's head hits the fence, and Binger stands. Binger looks at me inside the pen. That was today's Stochastic Fiction Game story. I like that story. I would give it a 4 of 1 to 4. It still needs a little editing, of course, and everything does. Even things that are sometimes published. It's just a matter of life and time. And now it is time. Write and rate this story a 4. Well, it's time to do life and do non-fiction things. And maybe that will make my fiction just a little bit better. And maybe not. And if not, well, there's always room and time to edit if you have it.